This week on Breaking Bullying, we're diving into a kind of bullying that most people never talk about: financial exploitation from the people closest to us. We'll get into it after I hit this music. Joining me this week is forensic accountant Chris Baxter. Chris, thank you so much for coming on today.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Chris, I was never told about this type of job in school. What does a forensic accountant do?
So we actually look into financial crimes. We do a lot of different things. So everything from fraud investigations to fraud awareness training, to looking at companies' internal controls over assets to make sure that they're strong. And if we identify any weaknesses, we want to make sure that we inform the company so that they can improve their internal controls. But a lot of the work I do revolves around financial exploitation of elderly and vulnerable adults.
So, when it comes to financial abuse inside families, what do you typically see? Like, are there warning signs that we should be looking for?
Yeah. So as a forensic accountant, I investigate financial irregularities, often uncovering patterns of exploitation, such as unauthorized withdrawals, whether it's ATM or bank withdrawals, um, unauthorized spending, forged signatures. I'm not a signature expert, but um, it's very easy to identify changes in the pattern of the signatures. We're also looking at the misuse of joint accounts. In family or caretaker settings, we often see that the manipulation is very subtle at first, and it's masked as helping with the finances.
So, how do you tell if it's a unauthorized um, card transaction? Like, how would if I'm the one being abused, how would I know that?
Yeah, so regularly reviewing your financial statements would, help you identify the a change in your pattern of spending. So, say you have, your mortgage payment coming out, you have specific utilities that come out, and you shop primarily at, like, say Marshalls or TJ Maxx or something. And then you go to Hy-Vee grocery store for your food. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing expenditures at Walmart and you never go there. You start seeing spending patterns for other utility companies that you don't use, or there's another mortgage payment being taken out that doesn't have anything to do with your property. So those are
So,
the things that we identify.
so how common is financial manipulation by family members?
It's unfortunately it's alarmingly common and underreported. So, many victims don't realize they're being manipulated, unfortunately, or they're reluctant to accuse a loved one. That's a lot of times what we see is, mom or dad is being taken advantage of by one of the kids, and it's their child, and they don't want to see them get in trouble, so they're very reluctant to file charges against them. But there's also an emotional complexity which makes it harder to detect, and confront. Many times they don't wanna press charges, like I said, and they might feel ashamed, so they don't wanna bring it public.
Okay. So, I know we covered this a little bit ago, but like the earlier warning signs, I can see myself like, okay, hey, I had this weird expenditure on my account. I could see, not saying my family would do this, but saying, well, remember you spent that on for this or that. Like, I could see some manipulation going on with families saying, well, you did do that. Remember, you just don't remember that
Right.
you did that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
we run into that. It's not uncommon to hear stories like that.
are there any behaviors um, we should be watching out for with our family, but that are trying to take advantage of maybe our parents, for
Yeah.
instance?
So I don't know about you, but, I've come across families that aren't strong families. So they're, the kids are kind of scattered to the winds. They don't really spend, some of them don't spend a whole lot of time with mom and dad. They don't want to do anything for them. And they have like one or two children that stick around and they're constantly helping and stuff like that. Well, one of the common things that we see, the trends is those kids that never really wanted anything to do with mom and dad, they're all of a sudden in their life again and wanting to help and be overly helpful. And so, an over involvement of financial decisions is a red flag. um, Family members, like I said, that never come around or communicate, all of a sudden are in their lives again and wanting to help, or even trying to manipulate their way back into the house and live in that house. Um, if they have a resistance to, outside oversight, um, you know, the family members who are uh, pressuring them not to talk to the other family members that have treated them really good in the past, and not wanting assistance from them because they want to control the property and the assets.
Yeah. So my next question is then, what do you do about the power of attorney? Because as we get older, we usually assign a family member for power of attorney. Do you see a lot of abuse with that?
Yes, unfortunately, because I think a lot of people, they fail to get educated on the type of power of attorney that they truly need. They don't put clear guidelines and restrictions in the power of attorney. It's just, a general power of attorney, which allows the individual to control pretty much everything.
So there are different levels of power of attorney. So not just financial, there's also other, like,
Yeah,
I
there's
didn't know that.
medical
So
power of attorneys, there's financial power of attorneys. You can, you gotta speak to an I'm not an attorney, but,
yeah.
if you want, clear guidance on power of attorneys, it's just talking to an attorney, but, yeah, we see many different types of power of attorneys in the line of work I do, and it's we make sure that we're reviewing those documents to ensure that we understand, if there is, restrictions in place, and if so, how is that individual bypassing those restrictions?
Yeah. And on the flip side of this conversation, let's take it quickly over to parents abusing their child's financial. So for instance, parents that have disabled children, is how common do you see that happening?
We've worked a couple of cases through, various state organizations that we've been contracted with, and it's sad, and it does happen. The child is receiving disability payments, and mom and dad are taking those funds and using it for themselves. And you know, you can clearly see in the financial records, like the bank statements, that the type of transactions being used from the deposit of those funds were not being used for the care of that child, not being put into an account for them for when they eventually, say they need to leave the house eventually and live in an assisted living center.
So how does that get caught?
Again, it's um, through somebody reporting it to like an adult protective service department,
Okay.
within the Department of Human Services for a county or state that they live in. That's how it's usually reported to us, is through either an attorney or the Department of Human Services, because we have contracts with several Department of Human Service
Okay.
agencies throughout the US.
I know one thing that we did with my oldest daughter is autistic, so she lives by herself finally. The county, they have, I don't know what the person's name is, but basically it's like a third party for the county that takes care of my daughter's finances. So all the money she gets in, um, she doesn't have to worry about paying the bills because the county will do it for them. So it's kind of
Okay.
that extra layer of protection for my daughter. So in case someone tries to scam her online for something, whatever, there's somebody there watching over her account, which is good for us because Jazzy would help anybody in need.
Yeah.
So always gotta watch out for those
Yep.
exploitations. But
Yeah, and conservatorship and guardianship is a really good area that individuals can go down. And a lot of states have those services that they provide, whether it's internal to the state government or it's external as a third party contractor.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive. I think, when we looked into it, it's like $40 a month. It's for us, it's like insurance, it just keeps my daughter safe from someone trying to exploit her from her finances because my daughter loves to save money. So she likes to buy things sometimes. So, um, do do you have, like, a case you can walk us through without giving out any names that you can remember where someone got exploited by a family member?
Yeah, actually, there's many that come to mind, but one that really sticks with me, and it's one that um, it really stuck with me because there was a lot of different facets to it. There was quite a bit of different schemes that were going on within that case. You know, other than just the standard exploitation, there was other stuff that was happening as well. But it was a case I worked on a couple years ago, and the son was legally the caretaker for his mom, so that was legally okay. However, the son was taking advantage of his mom's bank accounts, basically using it as his own piggy bank per se. Um, he was, based on the review of the bank records, we reviewed I think 4 years of bank records, and we identified over $100,000 in questionable transactions, and those were it was a lot of ATM and bank withdrawals, a lot of transfers to unknown bank accounts that we didn't have records for, payments to unknown credit card accounts that were not in the mom's name because we had the list of all the mom's accounts, her former husband's accounts. He had passed away, and then all her credit card accounts as well. So we knew which payments were legitimate and which were not. And then there were utility payments that were being made outside of the city and state where she lived, as well as outside the country. And I didn't. I was curious of what these payments were when I Google every single transaction that we run across, because I want to know what type of business it is, and
Yeah,
I identified that these payments were utility payments for an island in the Caribbean. And so that got me to think, okay, do they have property in the Caribbean? So then I searched for a couple hours and found the property records for this island, and I was able to identify property that the mom owned, which was later transferred into the son's name for shares in a company that didn't exist. And so she thought she was getting shares of this company, um, for exchange for this property, but the company didn't exist. There were never going to be any shares.
yeah.
And then her main property that she owned, same thing, that was transferred into her son's name for shares in a in a company that didn't exist. And it was sad because the property valued at over $1 million, both properties total. And so you're looking at 1.1 to 1.2 million dollars in questionable activity that he's taking from his mom. And Un
Crazy.
unfortunately, we did our report, we submitted that with our evidence to the APS unit, and we heard that the mom was actually reluctant to file charges because it was her son.
When should you, like, turn over financials or property to your kids? Is there a time you need to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would consult with your legal advisor to know for certain, based on your situation and everything like that, but, I guess it's in in the best interest of the estate. So if, mom and dad are, or mom or dad, if one of them is deceased, if they need to go to an assisted living center, it would be best if they probably get everything into an estate,
Yeah.
and then from there, upon their passing, then the estate would then get divided up between the kids.
Okay. So with this mom who got taken advantage by her son, was she, like, had dementia? Was she confused? Or
Nope.
do you know why she had turnover?
She was completely cognizant as far as we could tell. Um,
Okay.
she lived at the house, her main property. She was he was just helping take care of her, and
She just
she I don't even think she knew that the property had been signed out from under her.
really?
Yep.
I didn't know you could I don't know how that would happen.
I I have no idea, but he had a full
So,
power of attorney on her.
okay, that's the next question is, so did that kid have power of attorney? So, that's that's sad and crazy at the same time that people will take advantage of their own parents. So, how did this kid get caught? Was it did the mom say something, or did a third party pick up
It
on it?
was it was a third party that reported it to the local area's adult protective service unit,
Okay.
and then they started investigating. Mom was reluctant to cooperate, and then I don't know if they received a court order for, forensic accounting to get involved, or how we ended up getting involved. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times if the elderly adult is not wanting to cooperate, then we generally don't get involved after that.
That's sad because if the elderly doesn't wanna cooperate and say this parent has, like me, I have, like, 5 kids, um, and they pass away and there's debt that one of the kids abused, does a whole family do they eventually all suffer because of that abuse from one kid?
Yeah,
Do you know?
because, a lot of the money is gone. If it's supposed to be divided up between the family,
Yeah,
then only one person has spent it, and there's nothing for anybody else.
yeah. So, what kind of punishment do these guys get when they get caught?
It depends. If charges are filed, then they face jail time, depending on the state and county that they're in, depending on the judge at the time, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. I feel like, if you're in a nursing home and say you have dementia, you have a power of attorney, and obviously if that person can't really make that decision, can the family press charges? Can someone step
Yes.
in?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Uh,
see that too, where one child is pressing charges against another.
yeah.
Yep. We've seen
I,
that
I know
many times.
I know you mentioned some patterns, like if they want to start helping you out. Are there any other patterns that can be spotted as well that financial exploitation could be happening?
Yeah, the biggest one is the change in spending habits, because it can be either gradual over time, which are harder to detect, or it's like as soon as that person gets access to the account, they just start spending. They go on a spending spree, and it's pretty easy to detect that just looking at
Okay.
the debits and credits month over month.
Yeah.
You can identify how many transactions and how much money was spent month over month, and generally, if they don't spend very much money, you should see very little change month over month. Um, but if you start seeing a drastic increase or slow increase and it's steadily going up, then there's probably an issue there. Um, somebody who's pressuring to be on a joint account, that's something that the family should pay attention to.
Yeah.
Um, somebody who, if they notice high amounts of ATM or bank withdrawals and the individual, you know, doesn't remember making those,
Yeah.
probably something to look into, and somebody who, this is for external parties like banks and other financial institutions, but if a client comes in and they're with an individual who's supposedly their caretaker, and that caretaker does not let them answer any questions, there may be a problem there that they should be looking into and try to get that individual by themselves and talk to them.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Like they say, okay, mom or dad, let me handle this. Let me talk to these. I know how to talk to these people. Let me take care of it. So I can see how that easily goes. Is there anything people can do today to protect themselves from this happening to them?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff that they can do, but primarily, review all your accounts and legal documents, whether it's trust, wills, etc. But review those on a regular basis. Set up alerts on transactions, on bank and credit card accounts. If you haven't already, it's just really good practice to have those alerts on there. So if transactions are being made, it alerts you. Um, you know, involve multiple trusted individuals in oversight. So, you get to a certain age and you want individuals you're thinking about who should be my power of attorney. Um, don't just have one. You should have multiple individuals because that's multiple signatures that need to be or multiple approvals that need to occur or happen before that spending can happen.
Yep.
So,
And I could
and
see
then
that being a go ahead.
sorry. Also consult with a financial advisor and consult with your attorney regarding the power of attorney that's best suited for your situation.
Yeah. I can see, like, if someone wants to take advantage of their parent, they can probably tell the family, "Well, that's too much work and all those signatures, what if we can't do this?" Like, that's just probably a good warning
Yes.
sign that something is going on, is going up here. Um, so, if I caught my family member doing something like this, how should I handle that? Like, do I go to
So,
I call the police? Like, who do you call with
yeah,
this
I
type of
mean,
stuff?
you know, confront them is an easy way to do it. Confronting them in a calm manner and asking them like what's going on. Try to get information if you can. I mean, if you know that they have been stealing from mom and dad, it's okay to call the police.
Yep.
But you want to make sure you document everything and then get them off the accounts as soon as possible.
If you suspect, though, and you don't have access to your parents' bank account, but you suspect something's going on, and you approach that person, they're denying it, but you still think something's not right, who else can you go to? 'Cause I don't think the law enforcement will step in until they have proof, 'cause what are they
Yeah.
gonna do? Like, where else can you look?
Yeah, you can look at have an attorney get involved. They could subpoena the bank records if you're really certain that something is there. It's
Yep.
okay to reach out to an attorney and see if you can get legal action to get access to the bank records. Mom and dad should have their bank records. Um, they should not lose control of being able to review and verify their bank statements. That's another warning sign is if they're not receiving their financial rate statements to their wherever they're living at the time. That could be a red flag that somebody is gained complete control of their accounts.
Okay.
But yeah, they should have access to their own bank records, and they should be able to you should be able to access them through your parents.
Yeah. So, say I'm with it, and I found out one of my kids took advantage of me and my money. Can I get that money back?
It's well that it depends on how quickly you detect it. That's
Okay.
unfortunately the longer the scheme goes on, the harder it's going to be to get all of your money back. Because most people that are stealing from their parents, or if they're a caretaker and they're taking advantage of the person they're supposed to be caring for, they have spending issues already. And whether it's gambling, drugs, or just the need to spend money, and they're buying stuff as fast as they're stealing the money. Yeah. So the likelihood if this goes on for 3 4 years, the likelihood that the individual is going to see all that money come back is pretty slim, unfortunately.
Yeah. Chris, do you have any other tips or advice to keep ourselves protected from financial abuse from family members?
Yeah. Review your monthly statements and cancel checks regularly. Every month,
Okay.
you should be reviewing your bank statements periodically throughout the month. Just go into your bank and just double check the transactions that are occurring. Set up regular check-ins with your trusted advisors, whether it's family, financial advisors, or even your attorney. Um, educate yourself on financial basics. You know, um, choose people that you know that you can trust and that are going to take care of you in the manner that you are requesting them to. And you can trust the person that you've chosen, but you always wanna verify what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I always say trust but verify. Something I've lived by for a long time, but, I trust people, but you always have to verify what they're doing, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to your finances.
I think that's the ultimate betrayal is getting betrayed by the person you ultimately trust. Like, I trust my kids. It's like there should be no second doubt, and to find out they're stealing from you,
Right,
it's just heartbreaking. And then, of course, like, okay, that was my kid. Do I wanna press charges? Like, oh, maybe they'll learn their lesson, but then at the same time, it's like, maybe they won't learn their lesson until you do press charges. So, at
right.
the same time, it's one of those weird things. Chris, I wanna thank you for coming on our podcast today to talk about the subject I never even thought about until we had a conversation one day in class. For those of you who don't know, Chris is actually one of his kids go to my school, so that's how we came up with this topic. Um, any last minute thoughts or advice besides checking your bank statements? If people want to get a hold of you or get in touch with you, or if they want to learn more about financial exploitations, where can they do all that?
Yeah, they can email me at, C Baxter, Baxter, at EIDEBAILLY.com. That's C Baxter at ibailey.com, which is the firm I work for. I think my biggest advice that I always tell people, whether it's students, whether I'm giving fraud awareness training or just random people that I'm talking to about forensic accounting, if it seems too good to be true, it is too good to be true. So don't fall victim to the schemes that are out there. Um, Always trust but verify, and don't ever give anyone complete control of your finances.
Awesome. And you mentioned you do fraud awareness training. Do you do that online? Do you do that in person? How do we find out about
Yeah,
that
so
training?
we do webinars throughout the year, as well as we'll go to companies and give fraud awareness training based on the type of organization they are. So if it's manufacturing, we'll give fraud awareness training, and you know based on their company and what they do. Or healthcare, same thing. We'll teach them about healthcare fraud and what to look for. So we do wide spectrum fraud awareness training.
Okay. Are these like free trainings you can attend, or there's fees?
Yeah. So depending on, if we're brought in by a company, it's a lunch and learn
Okay.
usually. So people have to pay for it, but there are a lot of videos online about fraud awareness, and if somebody's interested, they can just email me and we can get something set up.
Well, Chris, thanks again for coming on today, and that information you gave is very valuable. So,
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
and for myself, you can always find us at our very own website, which is www.breakingbullying.com. You can also reach out to us at our email address. If you have a story of your own bullying to share, or for whatever reason you want to get a hold of us, our email address is breakbullyinghere@gmail.com. If you're a victim of bullying and you don't know where to turn, there is online resources to help you. The first is the government's very own anti-bullying website, and the address is www.stopbullying.gov. If you have had thoughts of suicide or of self-harm, we implore you to stop. Reach out to the National Suicide Hotline. That number is very simple. It's 988. I'm Tim Flynn, and thank you for listening, and we will be back next week to continue the conversation to break the silence on bullying.